and welcome to our latest episode of No Time to Diet.
Hi,
I'm Maggie.
And I'm Helen.
And today we have with us Hannah.
Hi.
Hey Hannah, thanks so much for joining us. Introduce yourself just a little bit so we know who you are.
Yeah, so I'm Hannah, as Maggie said. I live in Bristol now, and I am a self-defense and fitness coach with my own academy in Bristol.
Fantastic, amazing, cool. So as with everybody on this podcast, Hannah, we're talking about experiences. So today we'll be very much about your experience throughout your life with diet culture. So I suppose the first question is kind of like, where did that start for you? Looking back, when was your first introduction to diet culture?
So I believe it was around the age, I would have been in my teens. So I think it's between the ages of 40. I get a little bit muddled with my teen years because it's such a long time ago, but it was definitely a young age. And I believe the first diet I tried was the dry cracker diet. Don't know if you heard of that one, where you just eat dry crackers.
Oh my goodness, that sounds like you are what you eat. You are crackers with that one.
Yeah, exactly. So
you would find the dry cracker diet then.
It was awful. I don't mind one or two dry crackers as a snack. Like I quite like crackers, but to just eat dry crackers, and I found that because they weren't actually that filling, or I would eat a whole packet of dry crackers and then be like, okay, so I need to drink some water because my mouth's quite dry, and then I'd go and eat more because I hadn't actually satisfied my body with anything really. So it didn't last very long, if I'm honest. I would probably say a week maximum, because it was as you say, crackers.
So what was next in diet culture land for you then?
So there was I remember being in college and a girl said to me she was doing the detox diet, where you just drink water. That was it. You just have water and the body would cleanse itself and restart itself. So I tried to just drink water for a couple of days. Needless to say, unfortunately, it didn't go well because, again, my body was hungry. So I tried just drinking water, and that was the very early phases of believing I needed to obviously lose weight and change my body. So they were kind of the early phases, nothing too kind of long term, but it was obviously the start for me of looking at ways to change my body through the food I ate. And again, I think a lot of it would probably go back a lot further when you think about the magazines I was kind of reading as a kid growing up, and a lot of the images and stuff would talk about diets there from a young age. So I was probably introduced to it a lot earlier than I realized, which is why the stories would have been there. I remember the conversations in school as well with a lot of the other girls I would hang around with about how we should look in terms of, your legs having gaps or not having gaps and all of this stuff. So I think it was probably there a lot earlier, but the actual implementing stuff probably was from my early teens, I would say.
So were you training then with your martial arts?
Not at that point, but I would started to do like exercise regimes as a reason. So I remember starting with some friends. So it was around the time of the cracker diet. And we started to do exercise as a way to lose weight. And I remember that was my first introduction to exercise. It wasn't about any other benefits. It was about exercise to lose weight. That was it. That was my only real kind of remembering of exercise at the beginning. That was it. It was there as a tool to lose weight. So none of the other health benefits were kind of introduced or talked about, really, if I'm honest. And I'm trying to think if, I think it would have been around 15, 16 at that point. Again, none of it was fun. It was stuff that was like jumping jacks, eat a dry cracker, have some water, and think that was, healthy.
So when did you start the martial arts?
I did stuff on and off, later teens. So started getting into it, kind of doing bits and pieces, I think when I was around 19. And then, I think it was around 19 I started to get into martial arts and fitness a lot more. as a kind of becoming more obsessive with it, shall we say. But definitely when I'm in my early 20s was when I really kind of got into it all properly, where that was my life. Like that was it. That was all I was doing. And if I didn't, I'd get migraines if I wasn't able to train, like the stress. So it was that kind of, that was when the when you know you miss a workout because you've been told you should work out all the time, and if you've had a cake you need to work out, and if I couldn't do it for whatever reason, maybe I was too tired, I'd get really kind of panicky, angry, migrainey, just the sheer pressure of not being able to work out on a particular day. And I remember that obsessive behavior was definitely from my late teens, early 20s. My biggest remember of when I started to really restrict food was around, I was the age, I think it's around 18. It was when my uncle passed away. So he died quite suddenly. He was into kickboxing. He was like a martial artist, and it was quite sudden, so we weren't expecting it. And through the stress and grieving, naturally, I lost weight. And then from there, unfortunately, the comments started rolling in. Oh, wow, don't you look amazing? Look how much weight you've lost. You look great. But obviously, what wasn't considered was the methods for doing that. So obviously it's part of the grief and anxiety and stress around obviously losing someone, but then it turned into other ways to maintain it. So drinking a lot more, doing restricting food at that point, not eating. So none of it was actually health related. It was all through other ways. But unfortunately, that for me was the start of the real kind of moving into very disordered ways around relationships with food. That's what I can definitely remember as one of the biggest pinpoints, and that was where I think the real kind of battle began, shall we say, with it all. Because that, and the minute you put weight back on, it was like, I went through a few phases where I started to heal from losing my uncle, put the weight back on, and the comments were almost like, oh, you've put weight back on, like as if it was a negative, where actually it was probably more healthier for me to be that weight. But unfortunately, society praises weight loss as beauty and health. So that was really kind of difficult to kind of get my head around. And I did come through it a little bit, but then I went away traveling in my early 20s, and I went 4 months around India. And during that time, because of, the diet was very, very different out there, the heat, are on the go a lot. I lost a lot of weight. And I remember thinking, I can't, I've lost all this weight. What happens if I put it all back on again? And the stress that came with that was just phenomenal. So rather than being excited about coming home to see people after 4 months, got to the airport, ate a Subway, and I was like, oh no, I've eaten a Subway. What if I put weight on the flight home? And went to the bathroom and made myself sick as a result of it, because of sheer stress of, this idea that if I put weight on, I wasn't worthy to come home and see my family. And so, it's very kind of, this idea of eating a Subway sandwich because it had bread attached to it. That was the right reason. That was it. It was because there was bread there. If I'd eaten a big salad, would I have felt the same? Probably not. So those ideas and stories were there. And that was really kind of the big start to it all for me, was really kind of when I was, I believe, very heavily in the grips of diet culture and these kind of ideas around health and beauty and standards that we are supposed to meet in society, to be made worthy, which we know, it isn't true, but it's all the stories we're told, like you say, if you look back over our childhood, Barbie dolls, things like that, the image that we're fed or were fed. I know it's changing slightly now, but what we were fed growing up in, I was growing up in the 80s and the 90s, all the models out at that point were, Kate Moss, they were the people that were put on the pillars to, this is, look how beautiful they are, look how amazing they are. And, I'm not going to put their bodies down because at the end of the day, but that for me, that was never really going to be achievable because of my body size and how I'm built as a human. But unfortunately, that's what I'd aspire to.
Yeah. It's the idea, isn't it, in society, and you've kind of encapsulated all of it really, that builds up. It's not the one thing, it's not the one thing that the friend or a family member says, it's not the one image that you see in the media, it's all these things all come together to give us this idea that what makes us worthy is, whereas really, you think back to that time, you were independent, you were brave, you were successful in a sport, you went traveling and experienced new cultures. Like, there was so much there for people to say, oh wow, how amazing, aren't you doing great? That your body should not have even have come into it as a comment, but unfortunately we think it's a nice thing to comment on someone's body, and it's maybe worth thinking when we do that, like, what actually are we feeding into here?
Exactly. And a lot of the time as well, you don't know how, like you say, how why people are reaching those things, like you say, those you know, why people are where they are with it. And it reinforces a lot, doesn't it, those patterns and messages that, yeah, our bodies are there to be commented on to start with. So it's somebody else's business how my body looks, and their opinion actually validates. And actually that's not true, because, you know, no one else lives in your body on a day-to-day basis, and no one else feels what you feel in your body. No one else sees what you see with your body, and so no one else really has any real place to comment on your body. And it's all very, oh goodness, sorry, cat just darted across the screen. You know, again, you know, no one else has that right, but we seem to. And I've done it myself. You know, I've been that person. I've commented on people's bodies. I've been there, I've done it. And I still have to catch myself now going, hang on a second, what does their body have to do with any of this? Like, you know, like it's nothing to do with them as a person, their validation, their worth, you know, their achievements. Because, you know, there is the saying, isn't it? Like, when I pass, I doubt the thing that someone's going to say to me is Hannah had a great six-pack on my tombstone. Like, I hope not. Or Hannah wore size whatever clothes when she passed. Like, I hope that's not what people are talking about when it comes to my time.
Yeah, on a gravestone, or a memorial bench, or
you know, it was you're a loving, kind person who was a great, you know, sister, brother, auntie, whatever. That's what you see. But unfortunately, we spend
celebrate those qualities that make you.
Exactly, you know, the soul coming through that actually is your being. But we for some reason are fixated, or, you know, and I know, you know, like I say, we've fed it. And unfortunately, you know, it's not just, again, I'm not going to bash the education system, but there's things that are happening from young ages in schools that are very misguided. They think it's coming from the right place, and it's just misunderstood, unfortunately. But it's starting again so young. So it's no wonder we're so obsessed with it, because it's there from such a young age. And like you say, it just builds up and up and up and up, and to the point where some people don't ever recognize that that's what's happening. And there's some people that realize, because the pain gets too much, that actually, or they're doing stuff that's just so dangerous to their health to maintain a health standard that actually isn't to do with health at all. You know,
absolutely, because the things that you were doing, you know, were not actually healthy. So when did you realize that? When did you realize what I'm doing isn't healthy, isn't good for me, and is making me ill?
So I thought I realised it a few times, and it's been, again, a bit of a journey. So I thought I realised that I was poorly. So actually at one point I did go into CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy. But unfortunately I lied, and came out of it, passed all the tick boxes, believed I'd healed certain parts, but I hadn't healed fully. Does that make sense? So I wasn't doing some of the behaviors anymore, but I was still very heavy, restricted anxiety, rules around food. Then I went backwards again, and then from there it had been on and off. So I knew what I was doing wasn't healthy, but I was lying to myself. I was very much in denial. So it was a real battle, because I couldn't, I knew on and on. I knew the whole time when I was doing it, it wasn't right, but at the same time I believed it was. It was very weird. It was like almost multiple personality things happening at once, and it was quite hard to, so I believed I was healthy because the scales would tell me I weighed a certain weight, but then I knew what I was doing to get there wasn't necessarily healthy. But then again, I've unfortunately had different guidance in my life that would support me in saying what I was doing was healthy. So they were reinforcing behaviors from professionals in industries like ours, where they were reinforcing those messages and actually telling me that what I was doing was right for my health, you know, cutting out certain food groups and things like that, you know, was actually good for my health. And having, you know, chocolate as a treat every now and then because it's a bad food. So those messages were being reinforced. So actually I believed at certain levels I was being so it was a real kind of strain, I would say. And then it was during lockdown. That's how recent, it's like been really recent. It was going out of lockdown, and I was like, obviously during lockdown period I put weight on, like, a lot of people. I wasn't as active, and my diet changed and everything. And but there was a certain peace within me from being able to having this relaxation around my food. And I was sat there and I was like, I need to lose weight. I'm going to go on a diet. And then I was like, no, we're not. Like, you cannot do this anymore. Because for the first time, I think during that time, my partner, he was like, it's really like you're not stressing as much with food anymore. Like these rules are relaxing, and I would eat more, and I was, having alcohol and, not excessive amounts, but just normal amounts, but I'd had rules for so long. And I'd been watching some of your stuff, Maggie. And I was like, it has to be now, because what I'm doing isn't healthy, or what I have been doing isn't healthy. And whilst I know my body shape has changed, I don't want to go back to where I was, because I was more mentally calm and at peace with food, and I wanted to continue on that journey. So actually, I would say it was only this year really where I truly recognized the depths of diet culture, by meaning that whilst I may have moved away from some of the more outright negative behaviors, like binging and purging myself or not eating for days, the rules and restrictions I still had in place were so consuming on my health and my mind that I realized, like, I couldn't continue like that. Like, it was just constant, like, worrying about what I'd eaten at lunch, and I was like, no, this is time to move forward now. Like, that's probably just as bad for me than the other stuff that I was doing. So that was when I was obviously moved into the support from you around, like, actually intuitive eating. And that I would say was probably when I really realized the whole depths that diet culture really is, and how ingrained and how toxic it really is, was at that point. And it was an eye-opener, if I'm honest. And I still am going through it all, and just seeing it now everywhere, and it's scary. It's really scary. Just the kind of the depths of it. It really is, like, and that's the only way I can say it. And I hold my head like I'm being really dramatic, but it's the control it has over so many people. It's so sad to see as well that people are being so consumed by this idea that, health is this one thing, which is how much you weigh and what your body looks like, and they disguise it under this umbrella of health and these ideas that, this is so bad for you, and it's so scary to see it from, and I'm still learning. Obviously I'm still learning, I'm not 100% there, but every conversation you have with someone, diet culture's there pretty much on every level. It really is. And not even just like, you cannot be talking about certain, you could even talk about something else, but it will come in somehow, like, oh yeah, I don't eat bread in the week because, or and you just realize, like, it's just there all the time. And it's really sad. Like, it's quite sad to kind of see it all as I say that health has been taken and then just ripped up really and put into this kind of really toxic idea. I guess
that makes me think of, when smoking first sort of came
yes.
about, and the adverts were all very positive about how it's good for you, how it's good for your health,
so
how
glamorous.
it's glamorous,
Yeah.
and it's all that time was so severely damaging people, but the messaging was the complete opposite. And I feel like that's like where we are with diet culture. Like, there's so much evidence now, there's so many meta-analysis and studies. The Women's Inequality Committee last year said diet culture is ruining our children's health, let alone adults. And yet we still have this public health message of, yes, but weight is important, yes, but diets must happen. And it's very damaging.
Yeah.
It really is. And you know, again, what I've noticed is like, so for me it was all the supplement, like how disciplined you are, you know, how, and it's a really positive thing that you're not eating for 5 days. That's discipline. No, it's starving yourself. Like, let's be honest, not eating for 5 days is starving your body of nutrients that it needs to function. But no, I was disciplined. Willpower, how much willpower I've got. Well, actually, it's severe anxiety that if I eat something, I'm not going to be worthy. So it's not willpower, it's actually mental health issues here. Like, let's tell it for what it is. But it's all these other words that are positive reinforcements of your behavior. That for me was really hard to know that I wasn't going to get that anymore, you know, because I have stepped away, I have gained weight, I've openly said, you know, I've not said what I weigh because I don't weigh myself anymore, but my clothes size have, you know, they've gone up quite a few sizes. I've thrown away a lot of clothes, I've had to buy stuff, you know, and the way we've been fed that anything above a certain size is negative. It was so I was so sad when I had to go and buy bigger clothes. It was really traumatic for me. I was crying, I felt like a failure. Like, that's the story I told myself, and I knew it wasn't true because it was part of what the process that we were going through, Maggie, that we, you know, this experience of really healing and getting to the root of everything. And these stories, whose stories were they? But I felt so sad. I was so cross and angry and crying. I had to buy bigger trousers, and all of a sudden I was, you know, and particularly in the industry we work on as a coach, all of a sudden you've got someone at the front telling you to be healthy who can't fit into a size X now because, you know, can't, and hasn't got a six-pack. And it was really hard. It really hurt a lot. And I remember thinking, like, wow, this is painful. Like, stepping out of this is really painful. I mean, it had to be done, and the freedom now is phenomenal, and how I feel now. But going through that, because I say I was going to lose all this praise, all these, you know, people telling me how was their fit inspiration, how they'd love to have a body like me, all this stuff. And I was like, that's gonna go, like, they're not gonna, you know, like, because again, these ideas around health are a certain, you know, it doesn't matter if no one would consider that I might, however many times I exercise, how my heart health is, how my mental health is, how my social health is, how my relationship health is, how my economic health is, like, all this whole round picture of health. It's not considered. It's like, you've put on weight, you must be unhealthy. Like, you know, you lack discipline and willpower, where, you know, you must be full of excuses, like all this negative ideas around it. And it's but it's scary,
isn't it? It's scary to step away from that, because if discipline and willpower is your small teeny tiny body, then we know what the connotations are on the opposite end of that, right? And we know that that's what people are going to be thinking. And the fact is that actually, no, you can tell us the fact of it. Where are you now? Like, are you unhealthy? Are you worse off now than you were when you were in the grips of diets?
And still able to do the martial arts to the same degree as before.
Yeah. So I've got more energy because I eat food now, like I say, regularly. Yeah, like, and a good varied diet, like, you know, I have carbs, I have protein, I have fats, I have vegetables, I have cake, I have pizza, like, I have it all. And I think we've had this conversation before, isn't it, that, you know, if I ate broccoli all day, I'd be sick. If I ate chips all day, I'd be sick. So it's about understanding, having everything together. I've got, my hair feels better. It seems to be falling out less. My skin's cleared up. Like I say, my energy, and just being able to go out for dinner and not look at the menu and the calories on it and worry, has just, you know, if I want to eat something, I eat it because I can. And, you know, my health is, I've got more energy to exercise when I choose to exercise, not because I have to exercise. And if I don't want to exercise that week, then it's okay to not do that too. Like, if I'm tired or stressed with work, you know, I run a business, it's pretty full on sometimes, that's okay, you know. So all these rules have started to disappear, and I would say it's allowed me more space to focus on things that are really important to me in my life, like my friends, my family, my business, you know, doing all the stuff that I was so consumed with before that I didn't have space for. It's just created, this freedom that I haven't had for so long. And it's, you know, it's it's like being a different person. You know, it really, really is, because all of a sudden I'm like, it doesn't really matter what other people think of me, because I know where my health is. It's my health to manage. It's nobody else's health. And that was another, you know, really important thing, is actually it's nobody else's business about my health either, to be honest. It's my health, and what I choose to do with it is my decision. I feel stronger in my martial arts. I remember I was play fighting with my partner the other week, and he went, "Oh my goodness, you're a right handful now," because like my strength, like I'm just stronger in everything. He's like, "Oh no, you're a right handful," because before he could just pick me up and fling me over, like, because you know, now I can pin down a bit more, and you know, and I feel strong in every sense, not just, you know, look at my muscles, but I feel my body is grateful to me. Like, it feels like it's thanking me regularly, because if I'm hungry, I'm like, okay, what do we fancy? And I'm more aware. There'll be days where, you know, certain days where I'm like, I just need to eat spinach today. It tells me, it's like, you haven't maybe had enough vegetables over the last couple of days. Could you eat some spinach? And it tells me, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to eat a bag of spinach alongside something else, but it tells me it needs to be there, and it's like, okay, cool. It's like, you need some I don't know, there's just this connection. It's different. Like, some days it's like, do you know what you need today? You need a Toblerone. I'm like, I need a Toblerone today.
Oh, yeah.
you know, get home from a busy day, you're tired, rather than forcing down just a salad. It's like, have a salad, but you also need some pizza to go with that salad, and it's not the weekend and you're allowed to eat it, and it's not cheating. It's okay. It's not good or bad. The pizza's not going to turn around and just, you know, punch you in the face, because food isn't like that. You know, it's all right, it's okay. It's not going to choke you out as you're like chewing on it. It's fine.
And this confidence that you just oozing confidence, which is wonderful to see.
It's amazing to see.
The enthusiasm about how you feel now that you are free of diet culture is just wonderful. Like, admittedly, you were bringing me to tears with certain parts. That was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I just, the fact that you now, you're exuding freedom. You feel free, you feel fit, you feel healthy, you feel strong. I mean, if that isn't a sales pitch for anti-diet, I don't know what is. And it's interesting you say that your body wants spinach, because I had a mini argument with someone on Facebook, which I always say I won't do, but then I did, where he was selling, well, not selling intuitive eating, he was trying to sell his own thing, which was the problem, but saying intuitive eating is just, I want to eat cake, I'm going to eat all the cake. And I was like, So it's nice to hear that your intuition tells you like spinach too, which is a phenomenal idea, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Trust your body, trust yourself. You don't need rules.
Exactly. But we've been taught not to trust ourselves on all sorts, haven't we? So let's be honest, you know. Why trust ourselves? Because you'll pick up on a lot more if you do.
Absolutely. Amazing. Oh, Hannah, thank you so much for joining us. So Hannah Clay is, well, tell us, Hannah, so name of your business and your social handles so people can find you.
Yeah, so my business is Stand Strong Academy. I believe I'm under Stand Strong. I've changed it a few times as I've gone through rebranding. You know, I'm like, what are we on now? What's the name? I believe it's Stand Strong Academy on Instagram. I'm terrible. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Stand Strong Academy. I should know that, really.
I think it is. I'm pretty sure that's what it is as well. Yeah. I'd have said that because I think that's what it is. Thanks, Hannah.
Oh, thank you.
And we're _Life_UK.
That's it. Yes.
Yeah, see, you know yours.
Oh, it's taken a while.
Episode 5, I think we're on now. It's taken us that long to know it. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us, Hannah. It's so lovely to talk to you. Such a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Oh, bye.
Bye.